One click, one tab, 1 second of carelessness, and everything you've built can crumble in front of millions of eyes. The streaming world has seen its share of disasters, but some moments stand out as career-defining catastrophes. These aren't just embarrassing slips. These are the incidents that exposed private lives, shattered friendships, and forced the internet to ask uncomfortable questions about privacy, accountability, and what we really expect from the people we watch every day. What you're about to hear isn't just about mistakes. It's about the brutal reality of living your entire life on camera, where the line between public and private doesn't just blur, it completely disappears.
I'll give you like 5, because I don't want to say it a bunch of times, so if you just give me like 5 minutes, I'll talk about it.
The year was 2023, and Atriok was riding high. Former NVIDIA marketing manager turned full-time content creator, he'd built a reputation on being the smart guy in the room. Marketing Mondays with Ludwig became must-watch content for anyone interested in the business side of streaming. He was friends with everyone who mattered. QT Cinderella, Pokimane, Maya Higa, the whole crew. Trusted, respected, beloved by his community. Then January happened, and everything changed in less than 1 second. He was live, doing his usual thing, talking to chat, showing his desktop. Nothing seemed off. But eagle-eyed viewers caught something that would explode across the internet within minutes. A browser tab flashed across his screen. Just a glimpse, barely visible, but enough. The site was a deepfake platform, and it wasn't just any content. The thumbnails visible in that split second featured his friends. Real people he knew, whose faces had been stolen and grafted onto explicit material without their consent. The reaction was instantaneous and brutal. Screenshots circulated everywhere. Reddit threads filled with thousands of comments. Twitter became a war zone. Discord servers erupted. People couldn't believe what they were seeing. This wasn't some random streamer with a sketchy history. This was Atriok, the guy who seemed to have it all together. The guy who talked about ethics in marketing, who championed doing business the right way. Within hours, the people featured in those deepfakes started responding. QT Cinderella went live, and you could see the pain in her face. She talked about feeling violated, about the betrayal of trust. She said their friendship felt irreparable. Pokimane expressed her disgust. Maya Higa spoke about the lasting trauma of knowing this content exists. These weren't just streamers dealing with internet drama. These were real people grappling with a violation that goes deeper than most scandals ever touch. When Atriok finally addressed it, he came on stream with his wife beside him.
I'll give you like 5, because I don't want to say it a bunch of times, so if you just give me like 5 minutes, I'll talk about it.
The apology was raw, uncomfortable to watch. He looked destroyed. He admitted it was true that he'd accessed the site one time while his wife was out of town. He showed receipts proving he'd purchased access the same day as the leak, claiming he'd forgotten to close the tab. The emotion in his voice was undeniable. He kept saying he felt stupid, angry at himself, embarrassed beyond words. His wife sat there, stone-faced, clearly processing her own feelings in real time. The internet watched this private moment of reckoning play out publicly, and opinions split immediately. Some people believed his story about it being a one-time thing. Others questioned why he'd go to that specific site in the first place. Why deepfakes of people he knew? Why not just regular content? The questions kept coming, and the answers never fully satisfied everyone. But here's where Atriok's story takes a different turn than most scandals. He didn't just apologize and hope it would blow over. He took action. Real, substantial action. He donated over $60,000 to law firms specializing in taking down deepfake sites. He worked with an organization called CelebFiles that fights this exact kind of content. Reports suggest he helped take down more than 700 sites featuring non-consensual deepfake material. He lobbied for stronger legislation. He made it his mission to fight the thing that had destroyed his reputation. From a public relations standpoint, this is textbook damage control. Accountability plus remediation. But from a human perspective, it raises questions. Does throwing money at the problem erase what happened? Does fighting deepfakes now make up for consuming them then? The internet remained divided. By 2025, something unexpected happened. QT Cinderella publicly stated she'd forgiven him, not forgotten but forgiven. She clarified that while she no longer held anger toward him, she still couldn't bring herself to see him face to face. The wound had scarred over, but it hadn't fully healed. That's the lasting impact of moments like these. They don't just create temporary drama. They fundamentally alter relationships and reputations in ways that never completely go away. Now let's rewind to a different kind of disaster, one that happened years earlier but remains legendary in streaming infamy. Dark Side Phil, known simply as DSP, had been grinding in the gaming content world since the mid-2000s. Street Fighter walkthroughs, Elder Scrolls playthroughs, the guy was a fixture of the old-school Let's Play era. Love him or hate him, he'd been consistent for over a decade. He had his audience, his routine, his whole setup down to a science. One day, he sat down at his desk preparing for another stream. In his mind, the broadcast hadn't started yet. The camera was there, the setup was ready, but he thought he had time before going live. He was wrong. The camera was already rolling, and hundreds of viewers were already watching. What happened next became one of the most awkward moments in streaming history. Completely unaware of his live audience, he started pleasuring himself right there at his desk. The realization hit him seconds later. He glanced up at his monitor, saw the viewer count, saw the chat exploding, and froze. His face went from relaxed to horrified in an instant. The words that came out of his mouth became instantly infamous. He muttered something about the camera being on the whole time, sounding genuinely shocked and confused. But the damage was done. Within hours, clips were everywhere. YouTube, Reddit, Twitter, every corner of the internet had the footage. People couldn't believe what they'd witnessed. It wasn't malicious. It wasn't intentional. It was just brutally, painfully awkward. DSB tried to manage the fallout by calling it an honest mistake. He genuinely thought the stream hadn't started. Technically, he wasn't lying. It really was an accident. But the internet doesn't care about technicalities. The internet cares about spectacle, and this was pure spectacle. The aftermath proved devastating in ways beyond just embarrassment. DSP's name became a punchline. Reaction channels covered it endlessly. Forums turned it into endless memes. His reputation, already controversial in gaming circles, became permanently tied to this one moment. The worst part? The clip spread faster and got more views than any of his actual gaming content ever did. Years of hard work building an audience, creating walkthroughs, providing entertainment, all overshadowed by one accidental broadcast. His view counts dropped. His ability to attract new viewers tanked. People couldn't separate the creator from the incident. Even now, years later, he struggles to pull decent numbers. Some of that might be due to the games he plays or his contentious personality. But there's no denying that moment fundamentally damaged his career in ways he never fully recovered from. It's a harsh reminder that in streaming, you're always one mistake away from becoming a cautionary tale. The thing about streaming scandals is they come in different flavors. Some are accidents, some are intentional, and some fall into a gray area that sparks endless debate. Vosh's situation landed firmly in that gray area, and it ignited one of the most contentious discussions the political commentary space has ever seen. February 2024. Vosh was midstream, doing his usual thing. Political debates, long-form discussions, sharp analysis. He'd built his entire brand on being the guy who dissects morality, power dynamics, and social justice with a fine-tooth comb. His audience expected thorough breakdowns of complex topics. What they didn't expect was for him to accidentally give them a breakdown of his desktop folders. He was sharing his screen, casually browsing files, when he opened a folder.
I probably should have made a long time ago. There are two main reasons why I haven't.
Chat noticed immediately. Among the visible thumbnails were explicit images, not just standard adult content, but artwork that raised serious red flags. People recognized the style instantly. It matched an artist known for creating material featuring characters that looked underage. Lolicon content, a term that makes most people immediately uncomfortable. One folder title in particular sent the situation into overdrive. Something about horses. That phrase became a meme and a rallying cry for people who wanted him canceled. Within minutes, screenshots were everywhere. Reddit threads with thousands of comments analyzed every pixel. Twitter exploded with people calling him out. YouTube reaction channels jumped on it immediately.
Podcast. Woo-wee! We got ourselves a whole barn of a show out here.
For someone who'd built his career talking about ethics and morality, this was the absolute worst possible exposure. When Vosh realized what had happened, he knew he couldn't ignore it. He addressed it head-on in a follow-up stream, and his approach was calculated. He admitted the files were real. No denying, no gaslighting, no pretending it didn't happen. But he framed it in a specific way. He claimed he hadn't known who the artist was or what they were known for. He said the folder contained artwork he'd saved over time, and he hadn't realized some of it came from a controversial source. He insisted that if he'd known the images were meant to be lolicon material, he wouldn't have saved them. The internet wasn't buying it entirely. How do you accidentally keep an entire categorized folder of questionable content? How do you not notice what you're saving? The explanations didn't land cleanly for a lot of people. But here's where things got interesting. Some people believed him, not because the story was airtight, but because his core audience had spent years watching him philosophize about art, context, and interpretation. They'd internalized a version of him that could plausibly make that mistake. His response video actually had a positive like-to-dislike ratio, which is wild considering the severity of the accusations. The H3 podcast dedicated a 2-hour episode to dissecting the incident. Major commentary channels covered it extensively. It became one of those internet moments where everyone had an opinion. After the initial storm, something unexpected happened. Vosh didn't completely implode. His numbers dropped temporarily, but within a few months, he was pulling similar view counts again. Some fans left, some stayed, and the debate continued long after the incident faded from trending topics. It showed something important about online communities. If your audience already has a strong mental model of who you are, they'll give you room to explain yourself, even when the evidence looks damning. But not every streamer handles exposure the same way. Some try to minimize it, others apologize profusely. And then there's Rocky, who decided to take a completely different approach. When his private Twitter account leaked, revealing what people dubbed his goon account, he didn't panic. He didn't craft a careful apology. He went live immediately and basically owned it. His tone was half joking, half serious, completely unfiltered. He told his audience, yeah, that was him. Yeah, he has a separate account for that kind of content. He made it sound like the most normal thing in the world, like everyone does it and he just happened to get caught. What made this moment fascinating wasn't the confession itself. It was how casual he was about it. He laughed, made jokes with chat, and turned the whole thing into a meme. He acted like it was something to be proud of rather than ashamed of. He claimed the account had been hacked at first, then said it was old, then just admitted he used it. The story kept shifting, but his energy never changed. He maintained that confident, unbothered demeanor throughout. The response from his community reflected his approach. Instead of outrage, there was mostly laughter. Instead of cancel attempts, there were memes. His audience mirrored his energy, treating it like a funny revelation rather than a scandal. This speaks to something crucial about internet culture and personal branding. If you own something completely, it's harder for people to weaponize it against you. If you act ashamed, people will shame you. If you act like it's no big deal, it becomes no big deal. Rocky's career didn't suffer. If anything, the incident became part of his lore, another story his fans could reference and laugh about. It showed that sometimes the best PR strategy is no strategy at all. Just authenticity, even when that authenticity is admitting to something most people would try to hide.
Shit. What the fuck is that?
Then there's the case of iShowSpeed, which might seem minor compared to the others, but exploded simply because of who he is. Speed was live, doing his usual chaotic content, when he started typing something into Google. He typed the letters H and O, and the autofill feature did the rest. The suggestion popped up for everyone to see. How to have sex in cyberpunk. That's it. No leaked folders, no accidental broadcasts, no deepfakes.
Getting on my nerves, bro.
What's going on?
Business. You coding? Oh, we're about to fight!
Just one autofill suggestion based on his previous searches, but the internet ran with it like he'd committed a cardinal sin. Drama Alert covered it. Twitter turned it into a trending topic. Meme accounts had a field day. People joked that he'd been caught in the act, even though there was no act to catch. The whole thing was so tame compared to actual scandals, but it got treated like breaking news. The reason it blew up has everything to do with Speed's brand. His entire career runs on being loud, spontaneous, and unpredictable. His audience expects shock value. They thrive on moments that can be clipped and shared. So when something even remotely scandalous happens, it gets amplified 1,000 times over. The fascinating part? It didn't hurt him at all. If anything, it just added to his legend. His fans don't care about scandals because his brand is chaos. The more unpredictable and unhinged he appears, the more it fits his image. This reveals an important truth about modern content creation. The bigger your brand's identity as unpredictable, the more you can survive unpredictable events. Speed has insulated himself by making controversy part of his appeal. What would destroy a family-friendly creator barely registers as a blip for him. Speaking of family-friendly creators, let's talk about Sketch. July 2024 hit differently because Sketch represented something specific in the content world. Clean humor, upbeat energy, the kind of creator parents felt comfortable letting their kids watch. He'd blown up in the sports world with his catchphrase, becoming a phenomenon that transcended typical streaming fame. NFL players knew him. He announced draft picks. Brands loved working with him because he was safe, consistent, and genuinely likable. His whole image was built on being the good guy, the one without baggage or controversy. That's exactly why the revelation about his past hit so hard. Screenshots started circulating online, and they told a story Sketch had never shared. Years before his YouTube fame, he'd had an OnlyFans account. Not just any OnlyFans account, but one featuring explicit gay content. The evidence was undeniable. Usernames matched, photos matched, timestamps lined up. Within hours, the internet was debating whether it was really him, but the proof kept stacking up until there was no denying it. The reaction from his fanbase was visceral. Comment sections filled with messages of betrayal. People said he'd lied to them, that he wasn't who he claimed to be. But here's the thing. Sketch never lied. He just never talked about it. He had a past, like everyone does, and that past happened to include something his current audience wasn't ready to associate with their wholesome creator. The speed at which brands reacted showed the brutal reality of influencer economics. Companies dropped him immediately. Collaborations vanished overnight. YouTube channels that had promoted his content started scrubbing their playlists. It was a domino effect driven entirely by optics, not by any actual wrongdoing. Your career isn't just built on views and engagement. It's built on perception, and perception can crumble the moment your past collides with your present. When Sketch finally addressed it, his approach was straightforward.
Off your chest that, yeah, I feel better right now. That makes me happy. That makes me very happy, bro, that you feel better.
And it's like it feels good to talk about it now. Like, I don't know, it's like weird.
He posted a response acknowledging it was him. He talked about being young and struggling during that time. He mentioned facing addiction and living under the constant threat of exposure for 2 years. He framed it as a period of his life he'd moved past, emphasizing that his current content reflected who he'd become. The statement was short, almost minimal. No elaborate explanations, no dramatic apologies, just a clear line drawn between then and now. What happened next revealed something important about internet culture and community support. While some fans left, others rallied around him. Major figures in the streaming and sports world spoke up. Fozzie Banks, Sauce Gardner, even Jake Paul voiced their support. They reframed the narrative from scandal to survival story. They highlighted the courage it takes to rebuild yourself after hitting rock bottom. The incident also exposed uncomfortable truths about homophobia in streaming and sports communities. The way people reacted to gay content versus how they'd reacted to other scandals revealed double standards that many had ignored. Some fans were supportive not despite the revelation, but because of what it represented about personal growth and overcoming struggles. His response stream pulled over 840,000 views. The support was real even if it was mixed. Sketch's career didn't end, it transformed. Some brands came back, others stayed away. His audience shifted, but it didn't disappear. He proved that sometimes the thing you think will destroy you can actually humanize you in ways perfectly curated content never could. These stories share common threads that reveal harsh truths about streaming culture. One split second of carelessness can lead to years of consequences. The internet has a permanent memory. Screenshots, archives, and recordings ensure nothing truly disappears. Platform enforcement remains wildly inconsistent. Some creators get banned for minor infractions, while others skate through major scandals untouched.